Mainly, we have two constitutional changes that we are talking about, and mainly, I know you are alluding to the amendment to the constitution to allow the leader of the opposition to be entrenched in the constitution. And if you ask me, it was actually an oversight in the constitution that we did not put a provision for leader of opposition. Why I say this is because what we have seen in the last maybe 30 years is that opposition has to operate from a position of law, so that we do not have the prerogative of the harlot. Power without responsibility. And when you're given an opposition position, because there are people who voted for you, you are expected to behave in a certain way. What we must avoid is what we have seen in the recent past. That an opposition leader wakes up in the morning and decides what to do. Decides today we are going to picket, tomorrow we are going to riot, the other day we are going to have prayers at anniversary towers and disrupt all the economic activities going on in Nairobi and elsewhere. Tomorrow we shall go to Kisumu, the other day we are going to be in Busia. No, there must be a law that stipulates how the opposition should behave. And that law is the one that is going to administer the opposition. So I support that we have a properly done opposition that operates within the law. As it is right now, because of the lack, we have a lacuna. Because the opposition leader doesn't have an office, so he wakes up and just decides what to do. There is no way of holding him to account. Even for his members, the people who voted for him, they can't hold him to account. Because, Sasa, he just wakes up in the morning, decides, today, what do we do? Where do we go? Do we go to Jacaranda? Do we go to Kamukunji? Do we go to, So we must have a law that stipulates, and this is not just establishing an office. It is a law that is going to stipulate how an opposition leader is expected to behave. So that now we also get to put them to account. And that is my take on that constitutional change. I know we had alluded, or the president had alluded to achieving what the last parliament was unable to achieve. And actually the 12th and the 11th parliament were not able to achieve gender parity in parliament. There's a proposal that we appoint about, I think, 24 more female members of parliament. And since we find ourselves here, and I know we have had this conversation about gender parity, and representation is important. And we say representation is something done by us for us. So I support the 2000 gender parity in parliament. It is constitutional. We have been trying to fight very hard to achieve it. We have been unable. And I think the constitutional changes that we're going to do so that we appoint more members before, and this is also affirmative action. It is not something that we're going to perpetually do. We shall only do it for the period that we are unable to achieve gender parity in parliament. And therefore, making such an amendment is most welcome. And we shall support it in parliament. And this is not about government and opposition. This is everybody who is here is going to support, everybody who's in parliament is in support of it, because we all want gender parity to be achieved. It is the constitution that says that.
Your colleagues, of course, in the debate this parliament, you had John Buddy, the former dangerous.
That is preemptive. Because it doesn't mean that we shall not now do anything in this parliament, because everything we are going to do shall be an attempt or shall be testing waters for something else in the future. We tested waters during the election, and we knew that we have this thing and we're winning. They tried. That opposition, the same people now who are in opposition were the people who were in government in the previous regime. They tried to bring this thing to BBI. It failed. And we told them it will fail. We told them the people were not in that mood. And the changes that we're doing are Mwananchi centric. They are for the Mwananchi. bringing representation to be two-thirds gender, to achieve two-thirds gender parity. That is not because the president wants to appoint his children. It is from wananchi. Sasa, when you say, we must also agree to do an opposition from an informed point. Not just yapping and waking up in the morning and saying this, tomorrow unasema hii ingine. Hapana, hiyo ni porojo. We are working. We have work to do. We have a country to run. And therefore, we cannot, it's absurd that we shall not do anything here in this country because now everything will be an attempt at changing the constitution. We are the makers of this constitution. We supported this constitution. Let the opposition stop pretending that now they are the custodians of good manners and good political behavior. They are not. We know them. John Buddy cannot lecture us on good. Who in ODM and Jubilee can lecture us about about political manners? They are the ones without political manners. We are the most mannered people we have ever met. We are the most mannered party. This is the most mannered, most religious government we have ever had. Sasa, when they say that we want to ruin the government and ruin the constitution, we are the people who have the mandate we are the people with the mandate of the mwananchi to safeguard this constitution. And that we do collectively as a parliament and as the executive. So let the opposition not lecture us about good manners. They are the ones who are not mannered.
Linking it up, of course, with the crossing of the floor by...
Parliament, the way the law is created, is that Parliament is independent, but must work together with the executive. That is why we make laws, and the president has to assent to them. This is a process. So, if the president wants to make laws, he would have to be in proper arrangement with Parliament. And the president can suggest to Parliament amendments that or laws that he wants passed. We also can originate a change in the constitution or a change in any law that we make. And the constitution is very clear on what elements of the constitution can be changed in Parliament, what requires a referendum, and how to even do a referendum. Why BBI failed is because it was initiated in an improper way. So, to imagine that executive operates differently from Parliament, we cannot have a government or a country that is so disjointed. At some point, there must be order. This is why we also want to create this opposition, the position of the official opposition leader, so that he puts his house in order. Every time, it even looks bad every time you find the opposition cannot tell us about capture. Because we see them all the time having press conferences with a man who has no position. He's not in Parliament, he's not in Senate, he's not mzee ya kijiji, ni jamaa tu anatembea huku akisema mambo na kupiga kitendawili. Sasa hiyo ni capture ya nani? Is that executive capture? What capture is that? You have seen them, you see the opposition people all the time following and flanking Baba when he's making statements. So isn't that capture? Where is it anchored in law? So watu wa opposition waache kutulecture sisi. Wakae hapo kidogo kando, wangoje tuwaoneshe how to run a government. Yeah, they had 10 years, they were unable to run it. Let us run the government the way it should be run, using the constitution. Waachane na sisi.